नमः श्रीयतिराजाय विवेकानन्दसूरये सच्चित्सुखस्वरूपाय स्वामिने तापहारिणे। Namaste. The topic is stress management the Vivekananda way. What we mean by this is that we try to understand how we can handle stress in our life in the light of the teachings of Swami Vivekananda. We'll go straight into the topic. Stress generally has four sources. The first is ourselves. I am the source of stress for myself. Second is my relationships with people around me. Third is my work. And fourth is my environment, including nature. These are the four general sources of stress in our life. Now, what do I mean when I say I am a source of stress to myself? I become a stress to myself when my body and senses are not under my control. When I am unable to accept some harsh reality about my body or my mind, its capabilities, its conditions. When I am unable to control my thoughts. When my desires mismatch with my proposed ideal or values in life. In all these conditions, we find we become a source of stress to ourselves. Second is relationships. My relationship with my family members, if I'm a student, with my fellow students, if I'm working somewhere with my colleagues, all these relationships become a source of stress because of our expectations and because our behavior, our value system and our goals mismatch with theirs. Then these relationships become a source of stress. Third is work. If I do not like the work I do for my livelihood, that work becomes a source of stress. And if I like what I am doing, but I am unable to climb up the ladder, then that work again becomes a source of stress. Environment. Nature becomes a source of stress if we are unable to adjust with our physical surroundings, heat, cold, or rain. Sound and air pollution also can become a source of stress. So now the question is, how do I manage all these different stresses from all these different sources? There are two approaches. One is the outside-in approach, the other we can call inside-out approach. The outside-in approach is to find workout strategies and find remedies for each of these stresses which make my life difficult. In this case, the success will depend on things, people and circumstances outside me. And there is no saying there will be an end to stress, and every time I discover a remedy for one, I find there is another new source of stress. Life keeps throwing surprises at us. I have worked out solutions for all these stresses which I am experiencing now. And within a month, I find I have new sources of stress, new ways of experiencing stress, and I am back to square one. I have to find a remedy for this again. This is the outside-in approach. The inside-out approach would be to handle all these stresses by changing the person who is experiencing these stresses. That is myself. I learn to function from deeper levels of my own personality. I try to understand what is life, what is the purpose of life, what should be my approach to life, and thus I prevent the very beginning of stress at the very source. The source may be there, but it is no longer a stress for me. And this will also empower me to handle them. Because the truth is, there is no life without stress. We will see that point now, how Swamiji will explain it. If we go into the outside-in approach, trying to remedy stress by working out things outside us, it is like, as Swamiji says, trying to empty the ocean with a bucket. The ocean of troubles will always remain. You can never empty your life of troubles. This is the outside-in approach. So what Vedanta teaches, and Swami Vivekananda is the voice of Vedanta, what Swami Vivekananda teaches is the inside-out approach. Life means stress. You change inside. You cannot change life outside. Change yourself inside. This is the right way to handle stress. Now, when we are talking about life, let us begin with a fundamental question. What is life? Swami Vivekananda, from around 1899 to 1893, before he left for the Parliament of World Religions in America, Chicago, he travelled across India as a Parivrajaka. In that period, one day, he met Raja Ajit Singh, the Raja of Khetri. This Raja later became Swami Vivekananda's disciple and his very close friend. Now, in the very first meeting with Swami Vivekananda, this Raja asked this fundamental question. He in fact asked two questions, very fundamental questions. The first is relevant to us now. Very first question he is asking Swamiji, what is life? Swamiji, what is life? Back came the reply from Swami Vivekananda. Life is the unfoldment and development of a being under circumstances tending to press it down. Life is the unfoldment and development of a being under circumstances tending to press it down. Being means Vyakti, Jivi, myself. Now this is like a sutra which has condensed the meaning and purpose of life. Swamiji's definition, as we can see, has three aspects to it. Unfoldment, development, and circumstances. What kind of circumstances? Circumstances tending to press it down. Let us understand these three. Unfoldment, development, circumstances tending to press it down. Unfoldment. The first question Vedanta asks us is, find out who are you? When I pose this question to myself, it comes out as, who am I? मैं कौन हूँ? Or what am I? मैं क्या हूँ? Now, without any training, if we ask this question, the first answer will be, I am so and so, my name. Then, my social position, what work I am doing, my religion, my caste, the class I belong to, my achievements, my successes, my failures. All these identities are outside me. The Rishis, the Upanishadic Rishis, when they asked this question, they didn't look for the answers outside. They looked inside. And they discovered that human personality has 5 dimensions. In one of the main Upanishads, Taittiriya Upanishad, this is explained. The Rishis discovered that I, as a human being, have 5 dimensions. The first and outermost is called Annamaya Kosha, or physical dimension. Second, Pranamaya Kosha, the dimension of energy. Third, more subtler and inside, Manomaya Kosha or mental dimension. Fourth, Vijnanamaya Kosha or intellectual dimension. And fifth, Anandamaya Kosha or the blissful dimension. They said, behind these 5 dimensions, dimension means at each level I have a sense of identity. I function from these 5 dimensions. Behind these, as the source of these 5 dimensions, is my basic nature, my true nature, my original nature. They call this Atman or consciousness. This is my true nature. They told man is Atman, Jivatman, he is consciousness. How is this consciousness related to this universe? What is this consciousness? All these are questions which will take us deeper into Vedanta. We will not go into that. We will accept this discovery of the Vedic rishis that I am not just this body, mind, ego complex. I have something else behind that. My basic nature is called Atman, or divinity is another word we can use. Now this consciousness or divinity or Atman, Vedanta tells us, is the source of all knowledge, of all strength, of all purity, of all joy or bliss. Whatever is there. It is in the consciousness. Or if you put it other way, whatever has manifested in this universe has come from that consciousness. So, unfoldment means unfolding my true nature as the consciousness, as Brahman. When will this unfold? This will unfold when we master its instruments, which is my body and mind. In one of his lectures, Swami Vivekananda says, I quote him, everything that is strong and good and powerful in human nature is the outcome of that divinity. And though potential in many, there is no difference between man and man essentially, all being alike divine. In some people, it has not manifested, but as potential, it is there in all human beings. Therefore, all human beings are alike. There is, as it were, an infinite ocean behind, and you and I are so many waves coming out of that infinite ocean. And each of us is trying his best to manifest that infinite outside. So potentially, each of us has that infinite ocean of existence, knowledge and bliss as our birthright, our real nature. And the difference between us is caused by the greater or lesser power to manifest that divine. Therefore, the Vedanta lays down that each man should be treated not as what he manifests, but as what he stands for. The apparent differences between man and man is caused by the greater or lesser power to manifest this divinity. That is the only difference between two human beings. He is able to manifest more of his divinity. I am able to manifest to a lesser level. Or I am manifesting more than the other person. Now, highlighting this process of manifestation, Swamiji says, I quote him again, all the vast mass of energy that we see displayed in society and in every plane of action is really from inside out. And therefore, what is called inspiration by other sects, the Vedantist calls expiration of man. Consciously or unconsciously, every man is trying to unfold that divinity, Man is like an infinite spring coiled up in a small box. This is Swamiji's words. Man is like an infinite spring coiled up in a small box, and that spring is trying to unfold itself. And all the social phenomena that we see is the result of this trying to unfold. So the social phenomena, then does it mean all the competition, struggles, these are all trying to unfold? Swamiji explains, answers this question. All the competitions and struggles and evils that we see around us are neither the causes of these unfoldments nor the effects. This is a subtle point. So Swamiji gives an example to explain it. In the case of the irrigation of a field, the tank is somewhere upon a higher level and the water is trying to rush into the field and is barred by a gate. A gate is preventing the water from rushing into the fields. But as soon as the gate is opened, the water rushes in by its own nature. And if there is dirt and dust in the way, the water rolls over them. But dust and dirt are neither the result nor the cause of this unfolding of the divine nature of man. They are coexistent circumstances and therefore can be remedied. My inner divinity, it is continuously unfolding, but there is a gate preventing it from flowing out. What is that gate? The limitations of my mind and my body. This prevents the manifesting, the unfolding of the inner divinity. What is this dust and dirt? Dust and dirt are the circumstances of life which we call sometimes stress. These are coexistent circumstances, Swamiji says. They are coexistent circumstances and therefore can be remedied. I can resolve them. How? By changing them. You cannot change them. You can roll over them. As the water rolls over the dust and all this dirt, you can roll over it. It will stay there, but it is no longer a source of stress. It is no longer seen as stress. That is the point. The central idea of Vedanta is this. I have to manifest my inner potential. All knowledge is inside me, strength is inside me. Manifesting this inner divinity outside is what is called life. In fact, Swami Vivekananda's life mission is explained like this. He puts it across. To help mankind in this unfoldment is my life's mission. This is what he told to Sister Nivedita. I quote him. My ideal indeed can be put into a few words, and that is to preach unto mankind their divinity and how to make it manifest in every moment of life. I repeat again, my ideal indeed can be put into a few words, and that is to preach unto mankind their divinity and how to make it manifest in every moment of life. The inner divinity has to be manifested in every moment. The only obstacle is the gate. Remove the gate, the unfolding or the manifesting will automatically happen. Now, this unfolding, the water flowing down, I have no role in it. It is a natural process. From above, the water flows down. From inside, the divinity is trying to manifest. In the very beginning, the creation itself is an unfoldment of the divine being. In simple language, we call it God. Now, this unfoldment, let us explain and try to understand through that imagery of ocean which Swamiji gave us. There is this ocean. Deep inside the ocean, they say it is standstill. In that ocean, there is a wave. Now the ocean, if we call it consciousness, the wave we can call as energy. Consciousness, energy. In our terminology, Hindu terminology, it will be Brahman and Shakti. It is the same ocean, but in a different state. In the first condition, as the still ocean, it is potential energy. In the second condition, as the wave, it is kinetic energy. There is a manifestation. This manifestation of energy we call Shakti. Adi Shakti, Parashakti, there are so many names for it. Now on this wave, there are millions and millions of bubbles. We see the flow. First is the ocean, then the wave, then the bubbles. And we also have to note the wave, though it looks to be different, it is one and same as the ocean. The wave is not different from the ocean. It is same, different only in terms of manifestation of energy. How much it has changed just because of manifesting its energy. Same thing, the bubbles on the wave. The bubbles are nothing but the wave and the ocean. But there is a difference again in terms of manifestation of energy. The bubble is in the wave and so in the ocean, and the bubble is nothing but the wave and the ocean. But it appears to be something different and it has a unique identity. I am a bubble. This bubble thinks it is defined by time and space. It has a limited form. So the bubble says, this form is my identity. And then it has a time, let us say 10 seconds. It sees its life limited by time also. So it is bound by time and space. And it thinks I am an individual. Everything that we see in this universe is a bubble. Anything you look around your room now and you see, whatever you see is a bubble. What is a bubble? Bubble is nothing but energy. So whatever we see around us is nothing but energy, atoms. But in different forms and shapes, living and non-living. Now let us talk only about the human bubbles. There is a bubble called male, there is a bubble called female. Again, young, middle-aged, old-aged. Again, energetic, now very tired. And then go inside. Very intelligent, not so intelligent, stupid. Very razor-sharp mind, very good, but here is a dull mind. The buddhi is not working properly. Very noble-hearted, kind-hearted, very crooked and hard-hearted. So many differences in each of these bubbles. But though they seem to be so different, they are nothing but bubbles. Now one of the bubbles, it is afraid of death. It sees other bubbles bursting and dying, so it is afraid of death. Then a guru comes and tells this bubble, it doesn't make sense for you to think of death because you cannot die. Really, who would take a bubble crying about death seriously? If a bubble comes to us and says, I am afraid of death, what will you do? We'll laugh at it. We'll say, what does your death matter? What? Is it nothing if I die? I don't think it is anything. You came from the wave, you go back to the wave. It is, you think it is something because you have forgotten your identification with the wave. You are the almighty wave. And why the wave? You are the ocean itself. So the guru comes and tells this disciple bubble, my dear child, you cannot die. How is that? Because you are the ocean. Your crying that I will die is as silly as the ocean crying, I will die, there will be nothing left. I'll become non-existent. It is as same as that. Tat Tvam Asi is the Mahavakya. You are that. You are that ocean. Now this bubble goes inside. It doesn't go on a Tirtha Yatra to discover itself. It has to go inside. It is inside out approach, mind you. So the bubble goes inside and tries to understand, who am I? What am I? I thought I was this bubble, a man, middle-aged, a woman, old-aged, whatever it is. And suddenly this guru tells, no, you are none of these. You are pure consciousness. You are the ocean. You are that Brahman. So when this bubble goes inside, through a sadhana paddhati, it realizes its basic nature, true nature as Atman. This is called Atma Sakshatkar. Then it declares, Aham Brahmasmi. I am that consciousness. I am consciousness. Then when it comes out again to this play of bubbles, it sees again so many bubbles, so many colors, so many shapes. But it is no longer fooled into seeing them as independent, individual bubbles clashing with each other. It is no longer hurt when those bubbles come and hurt it. Because it says, Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. All that I see is nothing but consciousness. There is no two, there is only one. I am this universe. So this approach immediately transforms life. There are circumstances which are painful for me, stressful for me. But now the person who was seeing it as stress, he has transformed. It will be there, but it will not be a stress for him. It is a little paradoxical. It is there, but not there. The circumstances are same, but the experience is no longer a stress. That is the point. Now, this unfolding of my divinity means the bubble has to discover and manifest its true nature. That true nature is continuously trying to manifest, but there is an obstruction created in the mind, at the ego level, at the body level. These obstructions, if I remove, then the inner divinity manifests, unfolds. When that happens, the person who has this stress, he has transformed. Now we'll see how this happens. The second word, first is unfoldment. It is a natural phenomena which is continuously trying to happen, but there is a gate preventing the water from flowing out, and this gate is my unripe ego, as Sri Ramakrishna would put it, Kacha Ami. That unripe ego is a barricade, and the mind full of desires, vasanas, samskaras of so many lifetimes, that mind, Vishayasakta mind, is a barricade. And then body also at one level is a barricade. I have to purify, I have to make these three instruments strong so that the unfoldment comes out properly. Now the second idea, development. Development means this, opening the gate to allow the water to flow down. Gate means ego, mind, senses, body. I develop my mind by training it in the power of concentration. Clear, steady thinking. I develop my power of discrimination. I try to sublimate my emotions, purify them. In all this, what happens? My instrument, the mind, becomes strong. Then the inner divinity will unfold and develop as strength, peace, and joy. Outside circumstances, we are not talking at all. We are only talking about what happens to me. I focus on myself, I change myself, life will unfold as it has to unfold. What is it? Coexistent circumstances, Swamiji said, dust and dirt. it will always be there. My relations with people around me will always sometimes become a source of some pain. My body, my mind also can give me a lot of trouble. Outside nature also can give me trouble. My work can become a source of trouble. I cannot change those things, circumstances, because I cannot control or change people outside me. I cannot control or change the Prakriti. The only thing I truly can control and change is myself. And that is what Vedanta asks us to do. Swami Vivekananda asks us to do. He says, find out who you are. Discover the truth. Allow this unfoldment to happen. Remove the blockade called the gate. Development will grow. Now, how do I do this? In the second half of his definition, life is the unfoldment and development of a being under circumstances tending to press it down. Circumstances tending to press it down is the key for us. This development will happen when circumstances are trying to press me down. What presses me down? My own Vishaya samskaras, which impel me to seek sense enjoyment, my ego, and then the people around me, the outside world, living and non-living, things also can become a source of stress, and nature itself. Swamiji says all these are necessary for the development, for the unfoldment. In a lecture on Karma Yoga, Swamiji says, I quote him, he says, life is a state of continuous, complex struggle. If someone is dreaming there will be no struggle in my life, then he won't be alive for long. When the struggle ceases, life ends. In other words, struggle, inner or outer, is the sign of life, is the condition of life. Without this struggle, there is no life. It is a life without any value. It has no color. It's a bland life. Nothing unfolds, nothing develops, nothing manifests. It is only when I struggle that I develop. So struggle is the key for development. It is by struggling that I develop my mind. How do I strengthen my biceps? By lifting the weights. Lifting weight is a struggle. It is a pain. The muscles ache. But I persist. Within 6 months, I have very strong biceps. My muscles are strong. So without an opposition, without something putting that stress on me, I will not be able to develop myself. So this gate which is preventing the unfolding of divinity, that can be removed when I develop my mind, my body, by accepting these circumstances which are tending to press me down. Having said that, we should note how we understand the circumstances tending to press me down, how we look upon it, that makes the big difference in development of life. It should be noted that Swamiji gives a matter of fact statement. Circumstances tending to press it down. He doesn't use any word. When we refer to these circumstances tending to press us down, we generally begin with the word which is favorite with many people, problem. Any opposing circumstance, their first choice of word is problem. Some who are little better, they use the word difficulty. Some who are advanced, they will see the circumstances as challenge. And those who have mastered, they see it as an opportunity. They have already advanced. So whenever the circumstance is tending to press them down, they see it as an opportunity. So there are 4 approaches or 4 attitudes towards circumstances tending to press me down, which is always going to be there. Life means complex, intense struggle. It is always going to be there. How I will see it depends on my attitude. Will I see it as a problem? Will I see it as a difficulty? Will I see it as a challenge? Will I see it as an opportunity? That makes all the difference in our life. Now, the word problem, what does it mean? It means we regard the opposing circumstances as unwelcome and we somehow wish to avoid it. It is a problem which I don't want. I would like to close my eyes, pray to God, and when I open my eyes, I want this problem to vanish. It is a negative outlook because we can never run away from problems. They will simply follow us. And life means problems. Circumstances tending to press me down. Because you have called it a problem, it will remain a problem. And once you label something as a problem, you have lost the strength to resolve it. Now, the same circumstances, suppose I see them as difficulty. I would like to call them as difficulty. This fellow who calls these circumstances as difficulty is better than the other person who calls it a problem. Why? He is ready to accept the opposing circumstances. He will put in a little more effort or develop more skill to overcome it. So in that sense, it is better than the problem attitude. But this person still depends on some help. It is difficult. Can you help me, please? It is difficult. Can you give me a little more time, please? It is difficult. I will do it, but I need a little help, a little motivation, a little support. So he is still looking outside for some help. This is better than the problem, but still it is not the best attitude towards circumstances tending to press me down. The third attitude is looking upon the same circumstances tending to press me down as a challenge. The moment I see these circumstances tending to press me down as a challenge, something happens inside me. What is that? My inner potentials, my inner talents, my inner abilities are awakened. Everything is in the mind. It may look like ordinary words, problem, difficulty, challenge. But each of them, they convey an attitude. An attitude decides how I understand, perceive and handle life. So when I say this circumstance tending to press me down is a challenge for me, there is a different thing manifesting inside. It's because this is a courageous outlook and through that I manifest glory. There may be some fear and there will be some stress, but there is also a sense of satisfaction when I meet the challenge successfully. When I say challenge, that doesn't mean I'll not have some fear or stress. It will be there, but I am confident. I take it as a challenge. I would like to prove myself that I can achieve this, whatever may be that circumstance. So in that sense, we should never have this problem or difficult attitude. We should begin with this challenge attitude. Whatever life may throw at me, I will take it as a challenge. Now, the best mindset, however, is to see these opposing circumstances as an opportunity. Immediately, it puts me in a creative space where life unfolds and develops with grace, joy and power. The moment I see it as an opportunity, life changes. So the two best ways in which I can see and handle these circumstances is see them as a challenge, or better, see them as an opportunity. Now once Swami Vivekananda, he was in Varanasi. He was trying to successfully run away from a large troop of big-sized monkeys. They started chasing Swamiji and some of them were about to bite Swamiji. And he couldn't outrun them. They are fast, ferocious monkeys in Varanasi. Suddenly, another sadhu shouted and called out to Swamiji, "Face the brutes." Immediately Swamiji turned around and he stared at those monkeys. And those big monkeys which were about to bite his leg, they were stunned by the sudden reversal. This man is suddenly turned, the whole face has changed, and from inside, he has taken a different attitude. First, he was trying to escape. He wanted to run away from the monkeys, avoiding them as a problem, a difficulty. When that other Swami, some old Swami, he simply shouted, "Face the brutes." Next moment in Swamiji, there is a transformation. He looks around them. He sees that this is a challenge, I am going to face it head on. Immediately the monkey sensed it. This man has changed. He was running. In a fraction of a second, the man has changed. He is no longer the same man. Something has happened. What happened? The next moment, the monkeys fled from there. They ran away. Literally ran away from Swamiji. Later, when he was giving a talk in America, Swamiji referred to this incident and he told, I quote him, "That is a lesson for all life. Face the terrible, face it boldly. Face the terrible, face it boldly. Like the monkeys, the hardships of life fall back when we cease to flee before them. Like the monkeys, the hardships of life fall back when we cease to flee from before them. If we are ever to gain freedom, it must be by conquering nature, never by running away. Cowards never win victories. We have to fight fear and troubles and ignorance. We have to fight fear and troubles and ignorance if we expect them to flee before us. Fight is the word. When you take it as a challenge, you are fighting. When you take it as an opportunity, you are fighting. In 1893, Swamiji went to Chicago. He went without any good introduction. He didn't know anyone there properly. And when he went there, he had no information about where this thing was being held. He had not prepared for it, no contacts. And moreover, it was very cold climate. He didn't have good proper clothing for it. So the atmosphere was against him. And the people, when he walked around the streets, the local people also, they found the Swami was dressed strangely. Some of them threw stones at him. They chased him. They pulled at his turban. So a lot of circumstances against him. And he was not prepared for the first talk. On the first day, 11th September 1893, all of the other speakers, they had come prepared with their talk. And Swami Vivekananda had gone without any preparation. He sat there without any note in his hand. So it was a very difficult, challenging situation for him. The first half of the day, the session, they called upon him, but he said, not now, later. Because he was not ready for it. He had not prepared. He didn't know what to talk. And he sees all of them have come with wonderful script and they are reading and they are all being clapped. In the afternoon session, the chairman finally announced Swamiji's name. So Swamiji had to get up and the rest was history. He just uttered those 5 words, sisters and brothers of America. The nearly 7,000 audience, they were standing, throwing their hats. The men were throwing up their hats in joy. They were clapping for nearly 2 minutes. He had not told anything, just he addressed them hello. For 2 minutes they were clapping. And then he became overnight the best orator and the well-known speaker of the Parliament of Religions, and the rest is history. He had to face those challenges, but he took it in a positive way. How did he take it? He surrendered to his Guru, Sri Ramakrishna, and he became a fitting instrument of the divine power. Now, how I will work out my life, how I will see through all these difficulties, the difficult circumstances, seeing them as challenge or opportunity, that we will see in the next talk, where we will make a list and try to practice some of those steps which will awaken in me the strength to develop. This is the background, what we have done now. Life is the unfoldment and development of a being under circumstances tending to press it down. This is life. Circumstances will always press me down. Expecting it to be anything else is foolish. And if someone is sitting in a palace with no stress, he is not alive. He may be eating and he may be very healthy, but he is not alive because nothing is manifesting from inside. If something has to manifest, there will be these challenges. There will be lot of circumstances coming out and forcing me to face them. It should be seen as an opening, as an opportunity, as Swamiji saw in Chicago. That we will see in the next class. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.